Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Unexpected Detour, where in life detours are inevitable. Today's conversation is a deeply personal one. I'm joined by Joi Bowman, who was diagnosed with breast cancer at just 29 years old while breastfeeding her newborn son. Joy, thank you for trusting me with your story. I wanted you to feel comfortable and take your time and share only what you feel ready to share. Welcome.
Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for having me, Miss Francis. I really appreciate
Not a
you.
problem.
And I am truly honored to be here in this space with you and truly taking that deep breath and connecting and sharing my story because it matters too. So I thank you for having me, truly.
Okay. All right. What was life like for you during pregnancy and becoming a new mom?
It was glorious. It was a glorious time because previously, a couple years prior, I was not in a very good place, honestly. I was very grief-stricken after the passing of my father in 2016 and found myself really just not in a good space for the longest time. And then when I found out I was going to be a mom almost 2 years later, and then to go through that journey, knowing everything that I did previously to be in a better state of health really worked to my advantage because overall I was just feeling like I'm finally in a very healthy space in a very in a safer space. And so anyway, when I was going through my pregnancy journey, I was really enlightened and I was relieved and very thankful. And then when I had my son, one thing I did say is that I truly felt in my heart that God sent my father back to me in the form of my son. I feel like it was truly a double blessing because he actually looks a lot like him, and it just really made the journey all the more worth it. So it was a very wonderful time. I had also become a stay-at-home mom after teaching in the Atlanta area for about 5 years. So once I knew I was going to become a mom, it was a no-brainer for me that I was going to become not just a mom, but a stay-at-home mom. So.
What were you teaching by, if you don't mind me asking?
I have my undergrad in early childhood education. So I was working with children ages birth to 6 weeks of age. But then the center that I taught at too, the highest age level that you could teach was up to pre-K. And so I have experience from anywhere from birth to pre-K ages and stages. And so I've taught each grade level in between.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I ask all the teachers this. How was it like teaching those little kids?
Well, it's absolutely a joy, pun
Okay.
intended.
That's why I asked you.
Yes,
Because
and
I asked my friend that question. She was like, oh, she'd rather work with the big kids. She couldn't do the little one.
it's not for the faint of heart. You've got snotty noses and everything. You're changing diapers, and you're teaching them everything from trying to talk and crawl and walk. And it's just amazing seeing their milestones each year, especially if you're a teacher that moves up each grade level with the children, seeing their growth during those ages is mind blowing. And I really feel like, honestly, it brings out my inner child when I'm working with children those ages. So
You're having
there's a
fun
deeper connection for me. Yes. Uh-huh.
because it's fun.
It is,
Yes.
truly is.
Yes. When did you
Yes,
first
ma'am.
notice that something didn't feel right in your body?
Absolutely. So, when I had my son, we already knew we were going to breastfeed. And so we were doing well in our journey. We had some bumps along the road, some ups and downs. There was a time where I did end up with clogged milk ducts and mastitis, which is another term for clogged milk ducts. And so that can be very painful, and you can tend to have hardness, soreness, and essentially hardened areas kind of when that happens. And so, right around December 2018 was when I started in my left breast after breastfeeding that night and placing my son down for bed. I noticed a hardening, like a palpable mass in the left breast that was really, honestly, it was small. It wasn't that big. It was smaller than, I would say, a golf ball, probably about the size of a walnut. And so at that point, my mind started to shift back to the mastitis, the clogged milk ducts, and, monitor it and it would just go away. There was no pain associated with this lump. There was no um, rashes. There weren't any rashes. There weren't any soreness. It was just there, a thickening. And so, uh, that was December 2018. And so I monitored it for all of about 3 months. And so I had my family in town actually the week or two before I finally decided to go in and see what was going on. And so once they had gone, and I had finally gone to see what was going on March 29th, 2019, after undergoing a biopsy that was recommended by the primary care physician. Not long after undergoing that biopsy, I was presented with the devastating news that this was a tumor and it was called invasive ductal carcinoma.
Mm.
There was cancer found at the site of the biopsy.
Wow.
So, and
Mm.
I going from mastitis to a clogged milk duct to cancer was mind blowing for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
I'm sure
Yeah,
you were devastated when you heard that news,
absolutely. I
especially during
absolutely,
the time of breastfeeding.
yes, ma'am. That was very hard to hear because we were breastfeeding and we were doing well. And my goal was to get to 12 months. So we didn't have much longer to go. We were about at the 9 month mark when that diagnosis came. And so that was very, very uneasy. It's a feeling I will never forget because what came with that was the immediate, when I got that call, right in the same token, as soon as the diagnosis was revealed, you must discontinue breastfeeding immediately.
Wow.
And I think that broke me down more than the diagnosis itself. And that says a lot because I was a young black mother who was committed to that breastfeeding journey. And I think I put more pressure on myself over that than anything. So really there was a lot of overlapping psychologically for me to process what was going on with all of that.
That messed up the whole journey right there.
Yes, ma'am, it did. And
Mm.
very abruptly at that.
Mm. You were given guidance about breastfeeding while undergoing treatment?
Well, I wasn't given any guidance because the advice and the counsel was to discontinue breastfeeding because of the surgery aspect. We needed to meet with a surgeon. That came fairly quickly, and then at that point, we need to see what pathology says and go on from there. They were just using a lot of jargon and literature and words that I couldn't digest and process in that moment, but I do know that because of the type of surgery that my primary care physician was recommending, she advised to discontinue breastfeeding immediately. And so by the time I got to treatment, I had already had my surgery and breastfeeding wasn't even a factor anymore.
Oh, okay.
It was already ruled out and done. It was a closed chapter.
Wow. Emotionally, what did you struggle with the most those early days of your diagnosis?
Well, I could not for the life of me understand why. Why me? I questioned why. And I feel like at that time, it was a true emotional struggle to come to terms with. the diagnosis and then to make acceptance and peace with it. That had to be developed over time. Make no mistake, back then it seemed nearly impossible. I was literally a hamster wheel in my mind at the time, just questioning. I wasn't at the embrace and acceptance stage just yet. So that kind of tormented me. And as a young mother, I just couldn't understand why.
Right. I understand. I understand. Did your support team, not your support team, but the medical team, were they very supportive of you?
Well, initially, I was at Emory in Atlanta, and they're wonderful. They're wonderful. But as far as uh, my level of comfortability, if you will, I didn't really feel that that was going to be the end all be all because first of all, I wanted to get a second opinion and then make more of an informed decision. And so by the time I got to my second team, I felt more at home and felt more comfortable to advocate for myself and have hard conversations. It just really felt like I was home. So ultimately,
So
that
Emory
was
is where you started, or
yes,
that's where you stayed.
right. Well,
Okay.
no, well, technically that's where the
That's
surgery
okay.
was performed. And then for my conventional treatment portion, that was with Northside Hospital out of Dunwoody, Georgia. And I am still with them today.
So that's where you felt at home there.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, ma'am.
oh, you didn't feel even though Emory is an excellent hospital, I guess the
Well,
mannerism wasn't
the delivery, I
right.
wasn't very comfortable with the delivery of the oncologist. It was very brash, the information that was handed to me, because I know there's so, unfortunately, breast cancer is so common, and especially in the Black community, unfortunately. But it was just the delivery, the tone, and I just really felt like it was kind of cold and I was kind of being treated like a number and that you have a choice to make and that it was, you don't have to decide right away because of the type of cancer you have, but you need to go ahead and decide and make some decisions. Don't take too long. And then we were going back and forth with research and with the results of what my oncotype score revealed, and I just didn't feel the connection. And I said, there's a disconnect, and I need to make sure I'm in a safe place. If I'm going to go through with all of these things and all of the protocols that they're suggesting, I need to make sure I'm accounted for and feeling like there's a sense of belonging here because the
So
way that
you only got one opinion then. Is that what it was? You went with
Emory was my first opinion, and then by the time I got to Northside and Dunwoody, that was my second opinion, and they are the
okay.
ones who sealed the deal for me.
Okay.
So I've been with them ever since. Dr. Richard Carter, shout out to him and his team, Meg, all of them.
So
They are home.
that was your healthcare team that made you feel at home there.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. What kept you going on days when things felt overwhelming?
Absolutely, my baby boy. I have so many pictures of him rubbing and kissing on my bald head and just loving me and loving on me through that and still just our hearts staying connected through the whole thing, throughout the whole thing, excuse me, and him not realizing that I was sick or that anything was even wrong with me. I know that he sensed something, but his little young self, he was just always cheering me up. The simplest things made my day with him, and he just kept me going. He was at some of my appointments with me, even cheering up others, and people couldn't believe that I was going through that with, such a little one, but he went everywhere with me and he was my rock. And so
So let me ask you, what stage when you went, what was your stage?
So after all of the testing, after the mammogram, after the biopsy, the MRI, and all of those things, uh, the oncotype came back because we had to send that tumor off to be tested in California, and that's what you have to do with smaller tumors in order to figure out how to better treat this early stage breast cancer. So when that pathology came back, there was a certain score that it fell into, and it revealed that there was a higher risk for me to have a recurrence at 9 years out from the diagnosis, um, with distant recurrence, if I choose to forego the chemotherapy and radiation and tamoxifen. There was a greater than 15% chance that I would benefit from taking the conventional treatment plan that was recommended. So after pathology came back and that tumor was picked apart, it was determined that it was a stage 1B,
You
early
had it in
stage
the
breast
lymph node,
cancer.
right? Because
It
that's what the B
actually
was. It's supposed to be the lymph nodes.
Yes, they told me that it started in the lining of the milk ducts and it has started to break out
Oh,
of the milk ducts. It was starting, but it hadn't yet reached the lymph nodes. It was on its way, and so I caught it in time. So, but it's documented as 1B. Um, and so it was localized. It was a localized breast cancer. So that is
they removed it, a lumpectomy.
a lumpectomy was presented because of the size of the tumor and because of where it was located in the breast and because it was essentially suspected that no lymph nodes were involved. We had to wait to get the surgery to find that out because that was a part of the surgery too, a sentinel node biopsy. That means once they go into the breast while they're removing the tumor, they're also going to pull however many lymph nodes from under the armpit to test them for cancer as well. And to my knowledge, they had only taken two of them, to which neither of them contained cancer. So I did go with the lumpectomy, and with that lumpectomy came they needed to go into the right breast and take healthy tissue out to even it up with the left breast and then essentially lift them up because I have a history of dense breast tissue. And unfortunately, that's common in younger Black women. But, any woman with breasts, honestly, whether she realizes or not, may have dense breasts. So, anyway, those things were recommended in addition to the lumpectomy. So, prior to surgery, I was a full C cup, and after surgery, I went down to an A cup.
Oh, okay. They took a lot of tissue out of there, huh?
They did. They wanted to make sure they got it all and to make sure that I still could have some type of shape of breast with that type of surgery behind that surgery. And so
Well, and how did you feel about that? How did it make you feel because basically, from what I see, a lumpectomy is really, depending upon how much tissue is removed, it's a mastectomy called lumpectomy mastectomy. Because I had one. That's why I asked you.
absolutely. Well, I had a bit of mixed emotions because the way that it was presented to me was that, you would still have your own breast and that it would not be uh, detached from your chest. Essentially, we're going to go in and remove the tumor from your breast and then collect surrounding tissue that may be affected. Um, and so that was bittersweet news because, like I said, originally a C cup, and just having to sit with that reality because the other choices that were presented to me are not choices I wanted to pursue. I could have gotten the implants, I could have gone other routes and made other choices, but this was a choice that I knew I had to make and be able to live with because I know that I'm someone that did not want to have multiple surgeries. And so I said, this is kind of what I essentially am going to have to live with. And so, as bittersweet as it was just, it came with a bunch of mixed emotions because essentially you have to make peace with the fact that you had this type of body with these types of breasts before cancer, and then after cancer is another process. You're essentially grieving your old body, maybe not entirely, but for
You
me,
do, because
it was
it's an amputation.
very surreal.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're amputated,
Mutilated.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
So that was personal. Yes.
Oh,
And
and I
still
know
is.
your son was the one that brought you a lot of strength throughout this whole journey.
Absolutely. My faith as well. Absolutely. My son and my faith. Absolutely. Cancer truly taught me, truly, and I was always a believer, but when you're diagnosed with something such as cancer, really any kind of disease, autoimmune, um, you're essentially kind of forced to get outside yourself a bit and lean on something higher. And that looks different for everybody.
Yeah,
I identify as Christian, you know. So it's God for me always and always will be.
right.
Uh,
Me too.
so
That's why I
yes,
look to the hills. Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
All right.
So
What would you?
say
Yeah.
no more. You know.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
So looking back on this experience, what did you learn about joy?
Wow, that's I feel like it's a very multifaceted question because I've learned to really meet myself beyond my diagnosis and go a bit deeper and really connect with myself as far as who I was before and who I am after this. I really had to take a deeper look at what I was doing, what I was consuming, what I was allowing, what I wasn't speaking up on enough of. There were so many different things that I had a chance to reflect on, what I was allowing, what I was tolerating. And so I had to kind of re-meet myself, re-meet a new version of myself, because not only am I grieving my old body and trying to make acceptance and come to terms with my diagnosis, but how do I show up in the world now beyond this diagnosis? And so I really had a chance to not only relearn myself and meet myself where I am, this new version of myself, but I've really had a chance to study cancer and pick the body apart and all of the systems, um, to really try and get a better foundation of not just myself, but a better foundation of this disease and how it relates to me and so many other women who just want to be healthy and live long, healthy lives at that. So I really just met a whole new version of myself after this happened because I really just wanted to understand. And then once I understood, I really made it my mission to try and help others understand, or at least try to better make some sense of really who you are, this next level. It requires you to just really, I think, be open to just learning a little bit deeper, and you'll be surprised. You'll
On the
be
other
very
side,
surprised.
eh? Of what
Yes,
you find out about you, how strong you really are, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
know, I know.
Yes.
Um, Tell me about your diagnosis. So you said you were stage 1B, but then along with it, it comes other subdivisions. So say you were I know you said it's HER positive or ER.
So I was ER positive
Mm-hmm.
and PR negative.
Okay.
and HER2 negative, and 100% estrogenic. There was no progesterone found in my tumor, and the HER2 negative just translates to slower growing cancer, meaning not as aggressive as other types and a bit more treatable than other types. So my tumor was 100% estrogenic.
That's why they gave
Totally,
you the tamoxifen,
totally.
right?
They wanted to prescribe me tamoxifen, and they did. And I took it for a brief time, but I have since not taken the tamoxifen, and have pursued a more holistic route to my healing and health. And
But
so,
you had radiation and you had
yes,
chemo. How many sessions of chemo did they give you?
there was 20 radiotherapy treatments to the left breast. They were Monday through Friday. And so you just had the weekend to recover. So
Were you tired after?
there was some fatigue. The first couple of weeks I was rocking. I would say probably by the third week, there was some fatigue, and then the burns started to come into play. And really, the last week, it really came under fire with the burns and really turned up the heat. But I was so thankful that it was my last week. So short, but it was a short, but it was a very memorable time. It wasn't anything like chemotherapy. It had its own, you know, set of vibes, if you will. But yeah, it was unique in and of itself. Another experience that I will never forget.
Okay, so you had surgery first, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Chemo.
Chemo was second.
How
Yes.
many treatments of chemo did you go through?
16 in total.
But it was how did they do yours? Was it every week? It has to be spaced out, right?
Right, that is correct. So I did have the adriamycin uh, combo, also known as the Red Devil.
Oh, you had
And
that one?
yes, that was the first four treatments, and those were given every 2 weeks. And it required a Neulasta patch on the back of my arm to boost my white blood cell count in between those infusions. So those were the worst of the chemotherapy that I had ever experienced in my entire life. Again, another set of experiences, side effects, things of that nature with that one. But then Taxol was 12 weeks. That was 12 rounds every week. And those were, and Red Devil were 6-hour drips. Taxol was a 2-hour drip. So it was a shorter time. And with that, I was doing some cold capping during the Taxol sessions where I had the mittens and I had the socks where those had to be frozen ahead and sitting on black ice the night before treatment. And then presented to me not long after getting the Benadryl and things like that. Once we got the anti-nausea medication and things, once I knew the Taxol drip was coming, we then had to get me into the gloves and socks, and that was another experience in and of itself. But the whole idea and premise behind that was to reduce the likelihood of experiencing any type of neuropathy in my fingers and toes after anytime during or after treatment was completed.
But I'm
So.
sure you lost your hair. In one of those, that
I
red devil.
did. I did not cold cap my hair. I actually decided to shave my hair after the first infusion of Red Devil. I did not want to put myself through allowing it to shed little by little, day by day, grieving, brushing it in the brush, and I just really wanted to take control and buzz it. And it was a very freeing experience, although hard initially. I cried at first, stood before the mirror and gave it a nice pick out and took my pictures. And then before I knew it, I was cutting. I had a pair of scissors because I had quite a bit of hair. I was a new mom, all the prenatal care, really was beneficial to me. So it was sad to see it go. A lot of it, granted, was unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
the one who's got cancer, mind you. So it was time to release it and let it go. I said, let's do it. So I'm cutting, and then I had my son's father go ahead and get his clippers and shave the rest for me. And it was the most freeing experience ever. I will never forget when I first stepped out into the sunshine after that, and that sun hit the top of my head. I said, I can go anywhere. I can do anything like this.
See, and I
So
wouldn't do that with mine. I covered it up.
there were times I covered
Yeah.
too.
Because for me, it hurt when it was coming out. My head was sore. Well, that's why I asked you, because I know other women who have had that red devil, their hair grew back after.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, mine didn't start to grow back until I started my Taxol drips. It started to
Oh,
buzz in. Then it stayed gone the entire time I was taking Red Devil. It never
but when you did
showed.
the Taxol, it started growing back?
It certainly did. And not only that, once I got into the first 4 weeks of radiation treatment, I started noticing sprouts and
Hmm.
spikes and was documenting. And after that, it was on.
I see. On
I
and
stepped
popping,
in
right?
meditation. Yes. It was a journey. It was awesome to see. And it's in stages.
How did you
Yes.
handle all this emotionally, spiritually, and physically? How did you handle all of that?
Well, that's a wonderful question. Physically, there wasn't a whole lot that I could do. When I just really honored my body. I listened to my body. There was things I was doing to feed myself to keep myself healthy. And when I was down, I was down. Nobody bothered me. So I just really in that mindset back then, it was just all about honoring and listening to your body, truthfully. No rush, no pressure on anything. You need to heal. Emotionally, I was stuck for quite a bit. I was stuck in a rut quite a bit. I did rely on my faith, but then I also at some point began to rely on outside sources to help me process this diagnosis emotionally. I hired a naturopath, and then I also worked with another naturopath slash psychiatrist who essentially studies cancer for a living and has clients who come to her with these diagnoses for a living. And so she really helped me to understand better the emotional piece that we have with cancer. That's a bit of a deeper subject there, and I'm sure that that would resonate with a lot of breast cancer survivors today. But that is a piece that you absolutely cannot leave out. It's probably one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It's probably one of the most you want to be mindful of. Um, and then spiritually, I knew that I was not a religious person. And so, in my mind, my spirituality was you have been through some pits of hell in the flesh, girl. You need to really connect and reconnect with yourself and all of the things that can potentially make you wholesome again. And so, during that time I was exploring, like I really like what the rose quartz stands for. The rose quartz stone is known to promote healing and groundedness and peace. And I had gotten into crystals and stones, and so
Well, it
it
was
helped
okay
me to
because it's in the
connect
Bible.
to.
Those
Yes, it
things
really
are in the
helped me to
Bible.
connect some dots and what I was missing and what I needed to unlearn and relearn and yes,
Right,
reconnect to for that matter. And
right.
so that had become a staple. So emotionally, I'm figuring it out over here. Physically, I'm doing all I can do. And, spiritually, I'm doing what I need to do.
Okay. So you came a long way and you're
Yes, yes.
handling it.
In stages and phases,
Okay. Now
yes.
I want you to tell me about your home, what is it, homeopathic? That's what you
That's a great term. Naturopathic,
Oh,
homeopathic,
okay.
holistic,
Because I see a
functional.
lot of hospitals where they deal with cancer. They
Mhm.
also do deal with that holistic, but
Absolutely.
they'll tell you, you have to consult your medical team. You
Absolutely.
cannot just go in there and say, nilly-willy, I'm not doing it. They have to be consulted and then they work with you. So how is that going for you?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's absolutely true. We are not here to diagnose, we're not here to treat, we're not here to say cure or anything like that. You absolutely must warrant your doctor's advice. But granted, there are different things that I've done that have
Mhm.
worked for me throughout my treatment and post-treatment. And so for me, that looks like the disclaimer we just discussed. And when I'm working with clients, it's a liability thing. We're going to sign forms and we're going to be upfront and say, none of this information or any of this work I'm doing with you is designed to replace your medical advice from your primary care physician. All I'm going to do is work alongside your medical provider to help with the goals that you came to me to try to help you achieve. Actually, you're in the driver's seat in my office, and I look at the whole person, not just the diagnosis.
Uh,
And where
I asked you about your MSCN. Is that what you
yes,
do for a
ma'am.
living?
On the side, yes, ma'am, I do. On the side, I see clients and counsel them with nutrition therapy of many different backgrounds, many. Mostly women, Black women around my age, but I do have other niches and I do have other clients in other age brackets. And so that being said, I'm a full-time caregiver to my mother, and that's who I work for full time. But I do see clients part-time and manage them with nutrition therapy. So
Is it working for them?
is what working?
Your plan with the nutrition and is that why you're so slim?
Uh, Oh my goodness. You know, I feel like it's just my DNA. My mother is a small person
Oh,
and she was born premature. So she's been a small girl all her life. And then my father wasn't a big guy, but he was definitely like 6 feet tall and just kind
because
of
you're tall, I
average
know.
build.
You're
Yeah, I'm
tall.
5'6". I'm five
Yeah,
six.
you're tall, but I know you're thin. So
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out, is this what she did to stay so lovely and voluptuous?
Oh my goodness. I have a plethora of things that I do, but one of the things I'm truly big on, and this varies and looks different from person to person, even client to client, but one of the things that truly has worked for me, even um like post-treatment, um actually right around surgery too, intermittent fasting. I began to study more. And once I got a good foundation of what that is and how that works and how you can utilize that as one of many strategies to manage your weight, I figured that I'm someone that could benefit from that. Once I studied, and then you just have to be mindful of the windows and make sure that it's sustainable for you. And I think once you're able to manage what works for you, it becomes habitual and then it's a lifestyle. So, but I just feel like maybe too, it's the DNA.
Because I know
But I
yeah,
do
I've
a lot.
seen the pictures. I was like, she's beautiful. Look at her.
Miss Francis, right back at you. That's so
Well, look
sweet.
at her. That's why when you said you had breast cancer, I'm like, wait,
I
that's how I
know.
looked at it. Yes.
I
It's like
know.
she doesn't have breast cancer, but
Listen, if you have breasts, you can get it, you can get it, you can get it
that's
too.
true. Yeah, we can all get
But
it. Yes.
but I
Hmm.
appreciate that. Physical activity is always going to be in my prevention toolbox. You've got
Also,
to get moving.
you're busy physically too, right?
Yes, I think that's one thing that really worked to my advantage during treatment on my better days, not the days I was feeling like I got hit by a truck. Not on those days,
Right, right, right.
but on my better ones, I would do any and everything possible to get out, get some fresh air. In Georgia, we have a lot of hiking trails, and so there were times I was going up and hiking Stone Mountain with a bald head and just sweat dripping down everywhere and just any chance I had to really move and sweat, that to me translated to circulation and moving your body and just kind of releasing kind of some of the weight that I picked up in treatment and everything. Um, so really, I'm always moving and
So you
still
gained
moving.
weight when you were in treatment, like the rest
Yes, I
of us.
did. Yes, ma'am, I did. I sure did. They tell
Oh,
you to eat, eat, and I did. I was still mindful as I was learning,
okay.
but I did. I ate and I didn't hold back because I said, nourishment was at the forefront. And see, I had to
Right.
learn that. I had to learn that.
And plus you have
So
a baby, so you have to eat, so he will eat.
that's
So you're
right.
setting
Yeah,
the example. If you don't eat, he's not going to eat.
that's right. At the end of the
Oh,
day.
I was wondering. I said, she's so small. How does she stand? You had a baby and everything. Make
Mm.
me feel kind of bad.
Oh no. No, not at all. I've
Yeah.
got quite the appetite. So, I just do a
But
lot in my
otherwise, the looks are deceiving.
absolutely. You got that
So now
right.
you said you have clients. So if people wanted to contact you, can they? You do this virtually or
Yes, I do. I do everything virtually. I am starting to become more open to in person, especially um, when I'm able to relocate and get into
right,
a
right.
region that I desire. I may start taking in person. So right now I'm closed for new clients, but I'm going to announce and share with everyone when I'm going to open for open enrollment, and I do take a certain number of clients at a time as it relates to my caseload. Because you were asking earlier, how do I manage? How is it working out? And that's exactly how I manage it. That's exactly how I work it out. I make sure that I don't take on and overtake the load, essentially.
Oh, okay,
Just
okay.
take a few clients at a time per season because essentially it's a 90-day transformation. So I
Oh,
work with
okay.
clients 90 days at a time.
Might have to work with you. That's why I asked.
Well, that sounds great. Miss Francis, we
Especially,
can
you
arrange
piqued
that
my
when,
interest when you said the intermittent fasting. I
yeah,
see a lot of nutritionists. That's what they talk about, this intermittent fasting. So I'm like, what are they doing? So you don't have to tell us now. When the time comes, you'll explain it to me.
for sure, for
But
sure.
I'm curious because I've heard that terminology a lot. So I'm like, what are they doing? I know they don't eat or whatever. I don't know. So I know
Well,
some people will fast where they won't eat a certain time of the day and then they'll eat. But then to me, it's like you're going to overeat then because you're going to be hungry. So you must have the clue to how to do it. Hmm.
yes, ma'am, I do. There is definitely a method to the madness.
That's
Don't
why I
worry.
said I'm going to have to get with you so you can teach this old lady how to do it.
No worries. I got your back.
Yes.
No worries.
Yes. Now
He's
let me
gonna
ask
be
you
fine.
something. If your son could one day fully understand what you went through, what would you want him to know about his mother?
That your mother is a fighter, not only a fighter, but a warrior. And
Hmm.
once her mind is made up, that's it. There is nothing you can do to change it. And once mom made up in her mind that she was going to kick cancer's butt, the rest was history. And so at the end of the day, you must know that your mother never gave up, and that was never an option because you, my son, are the reason I fought so hard.
And you sure did, Joy. You did. You're
You were my
45.
reason to choose to live.
Yes,
And
you
here we
sure
are
did.
today. He will be 8 in July, and I will be
I
7 years
see he'll be
cancer free.
July 4th, July 2nd.
July 2nd,
Yeah.
yes. Close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's your July 4th baby, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, he
Yeah,
is.
I know. I told you I did my little research, before I
You did.
yeah, because
God
I
bless you.
needed to know because I don't want to come on here and just
Of course.
yeah.
I
So I
understand
had
that.
to
Very
look
well.
it up and see what Mr. Joy was all about. So that's why I did my research. I don't want you to have to feel like you were stuck out there. And when you kept saying about God and the relationship, I kind of felt that same way too. And you see, when you said, why me? I said the same exact thing. Why me? And then my pastor, he would always say, why not you? hmm That's what he would say.
Right.
Why not you? And I was like, it makes sense, but, you know, I don't want to hear all that. But it did make sense. I said, there was a reason. I don't know the reason, you know. But let me just ask you something because I know I'm getting back to something. Alcohol and what you eat has a lot to do with this disease too.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, the
Not
stuff we
all, but
know, but the
yes.
things we put on our body.
Yes.
So, did you drink, if you don't mind me asking you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. And I still enjoy my cocktails occasionally,
Okay.
socially.
Okay.
Everything in moderation for me because I have to honor who I am and who I was before cancer, but also respect and honor this new version of me and
Right.
be bold enough to make choices
Mm-hmm.
and be bold enough to stand in them, whether that's accepting a drink or not and deciding not to drink. Either way, you have to be more firm about your choices and stand on
Yes.
them, I believe, once you are diagnosed. And so I made several changes. I absolutely did. Numerous changes. Going back to diet, there was inflammatory foods like dairy and gluten and processed sugar I removed. Alcohol, definitely cut that out. Um, there was,
I know your baby eats no processed food.
well, unfortunately, he's like his dad. And as hard as I'm working on him, he's just not budging. He's just like his dad. He's a picky eater, and
Okay.
it can go in different directions. But ultimately, he does enjoy some healthy choices, of course, with my help on deck. But he does enjoy a good
Yeah,
balance
he
between the two
wants
meals.
stuff that dad is eating. Hey, dad, let me have
Yes,
that. Yeah, right?
absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
happens when your mom's not around.
Oh my goodness, you know it.
Yes, it does. It happens when mom is not around. You'd be surprised. Kids
I'm
do
telling
stuff.
you.
He's not going to tell you. So
I know.
no, because that's a daddy and son thing. So that's their sacred
Yep.
time. So you don't need to know.
Yes, and so I said, with that, he won't be a child forever, and
No.
he'll get to a place where life will teach him, and he'll have his own experiences and can make his own choices
But
too.
just think, you have such a good testimony. You were pregnant, you had a baby, and although you had breast cancer, you survived. And it's
Yes.
been how many years? 7?
On March 29th.
See,
Yes.
you survived with the God, your son, they all brought you through. And you're going to be a shining light. Now, I know at age 29, they don't do mammograms. But what would you suggest for these younger women out here who are so busy getting the boobs done that they're not taking care of themselves? What would you suggest to them or learn how to? do your own examinations or something. Because a lot of us
That's
don't do that either.
absolutely true. And sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so it's important to be educated on your breast health so that you can make informed decisions. You are allowed to make your own choices, but it's wise that you definitely take care of yourself by actively taking the steps to do self breast exams because it's clear that research is showing that more and more are being diagnosed in their 20s and 30s and you know, at least do your due diligence
Right.
before you go in for some of these life-altering surgeries. I think that you may have a better outcome, even if that's your path, by taking care of your breast health ahead of the game. So
Right.
that by the time you have that surgery, your healing process and recovery looks, nice and you'll have a better chance at healing and recovering much quicker, I think, when you take better care of yourself in that fashion. But for those who haven't been diagnosed and for those who have yet to be diagnosed and who are battling cancer now, I will say it's not your fault. I will say you are not your disease. I will say it's all in the mind. And to manifest the good things, the good thoughts, and positive things. What you say, I believe there's power in the tongue. What you say to yourself, it's either going to bring negativity to you or positivity to you. You are going to be attracting what you're putting out,
You
even
can
if it
say that
is
again, Joy. Say it
yourself.
again so they'll hear the words.
The law of attraction works for you too. You need to be mindful of what you are saying to yourself and what you're mirroring or absorbing. Be mindful of what your mindset is when you're going through something like cancer, because at the end of the day, what's in the mind starts in the mind, and then the rest follows in the body. So if you're feeding your mind joy, your body is going to respond with joy.
Yes.
It wants to love you back, but you need to love it first. And so manifest good thoughts, because if it's just the opposite, you're going to end up in a place that you don't belong in and you don't deserve to be in. And it would make it that much more tougher for your body to heal and recover with something like cancer. Give yourself some grace. It's a tough time. Get outside yourself with something I really wanted to capitalize on. Really, I don't know what that looks like for you, for everybody else, but for me, it's my faith. Um, and speak up and ask the hard questions. Do advocate for yourself, especially the more comfortable you feel with your team. Write things down. Don't be afraid to have a calendar and to have notes and just breathe. Again, you are not your disease. The last thing I was going to say was to find a support group and connect with them. That is one of the first things I did when I was diagnosed because I said, nobody's going to understand this better than them. And that's exactly true. That was the best thing I could have done. So,
I'm glad. Well, this is the unexpected detour, where even in life's hardest moments can lead us to deeper understanding. Let's thank Joy for stepping out in faith, stepping out in transparency, and sharing her journey with us all. I am Frances Hammond, and I will meet you right here on the next detour.
thank you so much. I
It was
really
a,
appreciate you
it
for
was a
having me.
pleasure.
You are a delight, and I'm so happy you invited me here. I thank you. I treasure you. I'm praying for you
Thank you.
and thankful for you, Miss Francis.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.